All right, we're back on the road again with the show or the event or what's it
Taking the
called?
journey walk talk.
Taking the Journey Walk Talk. Someone said they like that particular title. Um, don't have this lady much longer. She's getting ready to go on her way. On her way. Where are you
Yes,
going to, by the way?
I'm going back to work. I'm going back to teach. So,
Yeah, she's going back to teach. Had to clean the lens real quickly. So that means these walk talks may be kind of short, or we may have just do it on the weekends. How's that?
morning, or we can do them in the evening after I
Yeah,
get home.
could be. That's not too bad of
Yeah.
an idea. Hey, talking about going her way, I thought today we talk about the fact in many relationships there are boundaries, and I'm wondering if in relationship they should have love with no boundaries, which means both are operating with one another from an unconditional point of view where there are no boundaries. I say this because from my past experience talking to other guys, talking to other women, relationship on my own. Son's in the background, so you don't see her face too well. That's sorry about that. Maybe when we turn around here, when we get the shade, you'll see us.
At least the voices, the content is what's most important.
Okay, yeah. Contents of our character. Don't judge us by the color of our skin, but the
The
contents
content
of
of
our
our
character.
character.
Martin Luther
Yes.
King said that, by the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to what we were saying. Um, and you can see us now. Has to do with um, that she does her thing, I do her thing, and then that's how we both get along.
Or the other way
Mm-hmm.
is, well, we kind of talked about this a little bit the other day.
Yeah.
He does his thing, I do his thing, and that's how we get along. Or the worst one yet, he does his thing, I do my thing, and sometimes we meet somewhere in the middle, and that's when we get along.
Exactly. So I'm wondering, in relationships, should we have borders or roles, or should we, or is the idea of relationship it being a relationship where both don't have any borders because they're operating in unconditionally loving, with unconditionally loving of one another? I'm thinking about I'm a old style way because you and I are probably part of that old school. At least we grew up in old school. Don't necessarily mean we practice it.
Right.
But the old school way was there were roles in a relationship. There's the male role, and there's a where's my
Female,
finger at?
female role.
Oh, there you go. You point yourself in the
Female
female
role.
role. What do you think about that, Sharon? Let's talk about that first. That old school way of there's a male and a female, roles.
Well, I think in the black community, especially, those have gotten blurred,
Mm-hmm.
you know, tremendously because of single parent families.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, in our generation and the generations following, um, that that male and female role is not really what it should be. I personally, even though I grew up,
Oh, you got to get on the other side
I
because
got,
my
yeah,
arm
I'm
is
trying to
not
keep
going to
it
make
straight.
it.
Even though I grew up in a single parent household, I never believed in gender roles. Not because I didn't think that there were certain things that men should do and women should do. I just didn't think we should limit um, things. For example, I like working with my hands, and when we were growing up, that was a male thing to do.
Yeah, but let's be clear. I'm going to make an amendment on this
Okay,
because since you talked about black families, which is probably the most experience we have, a lot of black families grow up without dad role models
that's what
there
I'm saying.
and dad boundaries there, if you may want to
Mhm.
use, or dad
Right.
roles there. She's grown up with more than one generation of females only leading as caretakers in the family. So there really wasn't an observation and real experience with another father all through her life that set a role or didn't have a role.
Mhm.
Many times, if they went around the family, you might as well say the father figure had no role whatsoever
Yeah.
in the relationship. I just want to add that one in.
Yeah. But I understood what that role was. I
And by
did.
what? Not by example. That's one thing for
Not
sure.
by example in my household, but examples in other households and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is my my belief system didn't have anything to do with that. It had to do with, as I grew up, I saw that things were limited that females could and should do, um, and things were limited that males could and should do. For example, we raise our children to say. The female takes care of nurturing the children and things like that, and that limits the male's ability to also nurture the children, and he's as much of an integral part of that nurturing process as the female is. And so, that's one of those things that tells that one of the reasons I say that I don't like those different roles. Girls can play with dolls, boys can play with cars, so they can grow up to deal with cars, and girls can grow up to deal with the children. That's separation, and that is not, to me, that the role playing
Mm-hmm.
that we let our children do it when they are small
Mm-hmm.
sets them up to be too gender specific, shall we
Mm-hmm.
say?
Well,
Um,
on that particular note, I mean, I grew up, again, as I talked about before, father's father and a fatherless son. So basically, I didn't have a father around as my example whatsoever. And my male examples, of course, whoever I met in life as I got older. I guess my biggest one was my uncle, who set a big example for me as the first African-American electrician in the particular town. And he was very well respected and very good at doing his job. And so he was kind of like a father to me and of my family through my mom being his sister. But even at that, his role was mainly what he showed me outside when it came to work in the career world or in the highly skilled world or whatever you may want to call it, trade skilled world. But as for how things were acted around the home, having a male figure in the house all the time, called i.e. parental giver or caretaker or a father, I didn't have that. Most of the roles I saw came on through TV. Back then, My Three Sons, and what was the other ones we used to see when we were younger? Leave It to Beaver. I mean,
yeah.
those kind of shows, they were mostly Caucasians. And so I really didn't have
Which
that much
had
of a
a
role.
father going out to work and a
Yes.
mother staying home taking care of the home.
Exactly,
They
exactly.
had their roles. They knew their places. Today, you have to have two people going out and working in order to make a living, in order to make ends meet, in order to live a certain lifestyle. And sometimes that requires 3 jobs even.
Exactly.
So,
Well, I think back then in other particular cultures, outside of our cultures, like Jamaican cultures, Trinidad cultures, many times the father was working along with the mother, and they were working more than one job too. They were working more than one. Okay, we
okay.
should be back on. Was it on before?
I think so
Yeah, it
until it
was.
slipped.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
slipped once. We're back on again. We're gonna have to edit these two together somehow. Wow, how did that happen? Not good. Anyway, go
But
ahead.
anyway, um, I think within the household you have to have roles
Mm-hmm.
for the most part.
Yes.
But then, it doesn't mean that you can't cross those roles to make things work when they need to.
Let me ask you a question here for a second. Why do you think that we have to? Hey, talking about roles, my arm is getting tired. Let's see if we can switch some roles here.
Okay.
You get the camera here, and I get the camera here.
Okay.
How's that? Now talking about switching roles.
There we go.
So, do you? I'm just wondering, what is roles about? Notice I use that other word, boundaries, besides roles.
Yeah, I don't.
So, aren't roles almost like boundaries? Like this is what I'm only supposed to be doing as a male, and this
Exactly.
is what you're only supposed to be doing as a male.
Exactly.
And this boundary is the kind of work that you talked about, mechanical work, that
Yeah.
only men are supposed to do these mechanical work. So therefore, that's the boundary. That's the furthest I can go. If I go anything outside of that particular boundary of mechanical work or working with my hands like that, then I'm into a female world. Like in this case, I'm into the world of, if I want to talk about emotions, be more concerned about my emotions and talk about my emotions openly, that now I'm into your world. I'm into your edge of your boundary, your particular role. What about that? I mean, are we to, in turn, actually embrace these boundaries or these roles in such a way that said that's who we really are and have to be? I mean, what
I don't
about
think
that?
so, because just one of the examples you just used when you were talking about emotions, that limits you in being you. If a man cannot be emotional, then a man cannot be
You mean it's
himself.
okay for a man to cry?
A man should be
Oh,
able to cry.
I'm crying now. I know, I'm
Good.
crying in the dark.
Yeah.
You know, in the book, it's
and
called
and
Crying in the
and
Dark.
you know
something like
what? And that is wrong. That's what leads to mental illness. And that's another thing that we don't talk about. But when you have all these emotions locked up in you
that.
and you have no outlet for them, you know, you go through other things.
Angry. I
Anger,
was going to say one of them is
frustration.
angry.
Anger is definitely one of
Our
them.
brothers are very, very angry
Yeah,
because the fact that's the emotion that says that as a role, as a male, you have a right to. You know, that
yeah,
macho role, that, what is a superhero role, that a hawk role, that, hey, when it comes to anger, that's my outlet. That's my
yeah.
emotion that's male-like.
Because
Anything other than that, that's female-like. I don't do it.
yeah, and as a child, you're taught. Your sons are told, be a man. You don't cry. That is
Hmm.
so wrong. But the little girl cries and the world stands still.
Yeah,
The
well,
world should stand
I
still
got, I got, I got to paraphrase
when
on
the
that
little boy cries
because a
too.
lot of older sisters that I've seen, when it comes to that, they're like, hey, I don't never let any man see me cry or sweat.
A
Both
lot of
same thing. So I don't see them many times showing much emotions
a
on
lot
that
of that
side. My
is
mom was a lot like that. She played the male and the female role,
yeah,
and I didn't see her cry much.
and
And that
that's
end. And they would say, as she said sometimes, that which was made her strong because she didn't show much of those kind of emotions. She showed anger emotions,
it.
but she
But
didn't show
that's yeah.
those kind of
But
emotions
you
at
know
all.
what? When you pick and choose which emotions you're going to show, it
Hmm.
means that you're not still being who you truly are and who you're supposed to be.
Hmm.
If all you see, if all you show is the anger side, then that's because you haven't let out the softer side. We are not just all hardcore.
No,
There's a
yeah.
soft side to everybody.
Yeah, I admit we're definitely, from God, goddess, or whatever
Yeah,
you feel as a higher being, we definitely are by a human nature
yeah,
or natural way. We're definitely not wired just to be of one emotion. We definitely have a caveat emotions that we have a right to be able to express. But it does seem, and role-wise, since we're talking about emotions, the anger, upset role, that angry black man is never one of them. The angry white man seems to be the emotion that comes from the male side, and the woman's side is the one that's supposed to be more emotional and teary.
yeah. But the woman
Not
is
not all the time, but it
women are
does seem to be that
becoming
way.
angry women too,
Yeah,
especially the angry black woman.
yeah,
That's a or what is it um the revengeful black woman.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
a big one, but that's because
Stereotype they show a lot on
exactly,
TV. And a
exactly.
lot
But
of
they
black
don't.
men I talk to, that's what they feel like. Most black women you think about, I don't want them because they're always angry all the time.
Yeah, but they don't
They
talk
have they have
about.
father they have father issues, and that's why they're angry at me because they angry because they didn't have a father around. So now they're angry at me.
Well, when that happens, you also have to see what you're bringing to the table. Can you help her go back into that feminine mode that she's supposed to have? Can you do that?
Well, I
And
mean,
if you're angry, can
it's
she be woman enough to soothe your side? Can the two of you bring balance to one another?
I think that's where the thing that has to do with the boundaries. Are they really needed, and where do they actually stop, or where should they go, or are they blurred? Because when we looked at boundaries, or in this particular case, what we call roles, there still is that underlying we talked about the first time, unconditional love. Let me get it for you now. Unconditional love, okay? The unconditional love part gets you on the other side. Um, it
Thank you.
hopefully should count in this matter. Unconditional love side says that, hey, maybe we need to blur the lines. We need to cross the lines of boundaries. We may to have boundaries, not necessarily follow the old traditional ways. Okay,
Mhm.
and unconditional love means on both sides, not just one side. And because of that, that's where you were referring to, where you may have to in turn open up a boundary or door or a mind thought saying, hey, it's all right for my man, if you may want to say, to be more emotional. It's okay. Okay,
Yeah.
and then the other side would be maybe it's all right for my woman once in a while to be mad and be angry and not think that she has to be that way. Or as you said on the other side, maybe I in turn should coax her or give her the impression that it's okay for you to be more woman-like to me. It's okay for you to be more softer to me. That I'm not going to think something's wrong with you because you ain't street hard like you're supposed to be because you my ride and die chick. Yeah, that's right. You my ride and die chick, and that's how it's supposed to go to the death we go. That kind of thing. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I think that that's that's true in so many ways. I'm trying to change the direction that I was about to speak because of some other things that you said.
Hmm.
I think that's where the balance for each other comes in. You know, if something happens, wow, red-headed woodpecker.
Hmm.
If something happens where you, as a man, need to be emotional, and I, as a woman, see you holding it in, I need to come to you and say, it's okay for you to cry. I will cry with you. We will cry together. You know, that is strength. When you are able to cry when you need to as a male, that's showing your strength to be who you are.
Wow.
And that needs to be embraced and accepted. And I have heard, women say, he stood there crying like a whatever.
Oh,
Put
like a
in
bitch.
put in any negative expletive you want to there.
Hmm.
You know. And that's not right.
It's not cool. It's not cool.
If
Not
if
lovely.
you say that he was crying that way, when you cry, is that the same thing that's put on you? Are you crying like that too?
Mm.
You know, so you're wrong if you belittle a man for showing his emotions.
Hmm.
You're helping him to continue to lock that in. You're helping him to continue not to be his best.
Mm. Now,
You know,
do you think at the same time, then if the male needs to do the same thing, that the male needs to think about sometimes, hey, it's all right, sister, if you mad at me, baby, you're mad at me, I'm mad at the world. Hey, take it out on me, let it go, let it get out. I mean,
I
because hold on, there's some counselors who talk about that, putting on those gloves, putting
mhm.
on and holding. I used to have them hold these kind of
They-
soft.
They're
I
like
don't
those
think.
swim noodles that they
Yeah,
have now.
exactly. And
Yeah.
and let that person, like the woman, get her anger out. As her emotion and not hurt somebody else was good for them. Maybe that's something that in turn,
Might be something good for men to have too.
yeah, yeah,
When they're
exactly.
angry, rather than taking it out on the
On
woman
the woman,
because he's
exactly,
that much more strong than her.
exactly.
You know, grab a noodle and beat it out.
Exactly, exactly.
And
Well,
pretty
well,
soon
well,
they're gonna laugh about that one.
exactly. Too. Sometimes our kids also get beat very much
Yeah,
because of the anger between one another and not
yeah.
getting it out. Since we're talking about barriers and boundaries and roles, because sometimes we do that with our kids, saying that they become that outlet for us that we
Yeah,
won't necessarily deal with one another with because they're more innocent in that particular matter, and they in turn see the bad kind of roles that come along with that. Come to think of it, hey, on that note, I think sometimes we may want to look at getting some good hobbies in. Maybe you
yeah,
need some hobbies in your life. And a lot of us folks don't have good hobbies. Boxing
exactly.
is one of them.
Yeah.
Swimming is another one.
Mhm.
Running is another one. Walking just like we do.
Yeah.
These are good outlets to
Mhm.
your energy and your anger or your frustration
Or
that are
finding,
that are good positive for you.
yeah, finding time to do something that you enjoy. For
Yes.
example, I mean, like when I sew, that is very cathartic to me, very meditative
I
to
don't know
me.
what cathartic is, but she said it.
It's cleansing.
Oh, okay.
It's relieving from my soul. It's like a time when I can. It's like I meditate through the process,
Okay.
and it really relaxes me and puts me in a different place. Things like that. Some people paint. Some people, um,
Work on cars.
yeah, work on cars.
Um,
Write
do
poetry.
exactly do video animation like the young guys I do. They do production, musical production. I mean, some things we need to look as hobbies, not necessarily to make money off them, though it can happen, as being a way to exhaust, to let out, and focus your energy on something positive and uplifting. That in turn let it be frustrated, stuck inside to hurt someone else. Listen, we're going to stop here and let you guys continue the conversation. And hopefully, you got anything you have to say, put it down in our post below or as comments on Facebook. And until we see you next time, God bless and Ashe and all that other good stuff.
And take a walk and talk to somebody you love.
Bye now.